that was the time there was an outbreak of SARS. I don't know. I can't remember if SARS was a global pandemic, but I definitely was something that was in uh, the whole part of where I. No, actually, it was global because people couldn't travel. No, I wasn't. I'm not sure. All I know is that people couldn't travel, and it was a big deal. So when I was in the hospital, when I was having her, I knew that I wouldn't have any visits. It would be very quiet, which was kind of sad because I was hoping that this was going to be my final time. Like, this is going to be the relationship I'd be in, and I wanted people to be happy for me. But anyway, the point is that it wasn't like that. So all the visits I had and everything was kind of weird. Every time you had to go to the hospital visit, you had to you had to desanitize your hand. It was just a mess. But anyway, so what happened was when I went to the hospital to have her, and when I was fully dilated and intense contractions, the nurse began to fight with me to tell me that I needed to take the epidural. And I knew, because I had a nursing background, that I didn't have to take the epidural. And plus, I'd had 2 children before, and I have a high pain tolerance. So I knew that I could, in regards to pain, I could handle it. I was willing to take that risk. I had had 2 children before. But her philosophy was that because of my age, that it would be more of a danger if I didn't take the epidural. I couldn't understand how that would make any sense, because if you take the epidural, they have to give you a needle in your spine, which is the most dangerous thing you could ever probably do with regards to your nerves. So anyway, after an hour of fighting with her, I was very close. The contractions were very close together. I agreed to take the epidural because I was just so done. Like, she just was relentless and she would not stop. So I took the epidural, and I should just tell you, after the epidural, the pain was like my back, only actually up until the fastest when the pain from my back and the shot that I got had stopped. I had pinching my back for years after that. Anyway, when I delivered her, I couldn't, and the concern I had with this pregnancy is that when I was pregnant with her, there was a big concern that I had a very low iron count, which means that, and for years before that, my clotting was difficult. I had very heavy bleeding during my menstruation. So I just thought, this is not a good thing. So when I went to deliver her, I couldn't feel how hard to push. So she was delivered, and then shortly after that, one of the staff called Code Red. 2 doctors and 5 nurses came into the room, and they proceeded to do some kind of procedure. Usually when they do a procedure on you in a hospital or any situation, they need to tell you what they're doing. They told me nothing. So the doctors, for about 5 to 10 minutes, did some kind of surgical procedure, and after the procedure was over, the 5 nurses and the 2 doctors left. Didn't say anything, didn't tell me anything. So my guess was that because of my iron deficiency, that I was bleeding out. But it didn't make any sense, because unless I tore, which I did not tear, the only concern that they should have had was that my iron was low. They did give me iron pills to take after her delivery, and I was to take them for periods after that. But there was no tear. There was no concern about tearing or infection or anything like that. So and after that is when the following and the behavior around me being odd started. So I believe that that's when I think I was shipped without my consent. Now, the reason why I really believe this is true, because God has led me to a few documentaries of people who had been shipped by doctors who had prosthetic limbs or other kind of surgeries, had been shipped without their consent, and their lives had never been the same since that. They've been followed and been accused of being paranoid because of it. Like I said, I can't prove it. I could probably go to the hospital and find the records and find out what it was they did that day. But I can tell you right now that they didn't tell me what they were doing, and they didn't leave and tell me anything about what they were doing that day. So I believe that was the day that they had chipped me without my consent. Now, in relation to the chip, it's not the same chip. Now, the chip that we're talking about on a biblical scale is the chip that you take. And now, this chip is a chip that you take and it would be embedded either in your forehead or in your right hand. And the reason why I know this is because the gentleman who invented this chip was asked to do to create this chip, but he didn't know why he was creating it. But when he found out why he was creating it, he left and he became a Christian, and he started to share what the chip is for and how it works. And the reason why it's embedded in the right hand and in the forehead is because the hardest parts of the body are the forehead and the right hand.
Sharing with you tonight is that these things are real, folks. And we're moving to the positive identification of the microchip. I'm going to kind of bunch some things together here, but one of the things that happened was we went out, we spent $1.5 million doing some research on places to put the microchip. We had determined this chip has 250,000 components, a little lithium battery built into it, and a charging circuit. It fits through a hypodermic needle, and one of the problems was you got to recharge this thing. You can't run in and change your battery like you do on your watch once a year, and so they've got to recharge this thing. And so we had a charging circuit built into it, and it was a charging circuit built on temperature change. We spent $1.5 million, between 1.2 and $1.5 million, trying to determine where the places on the body were that the temperature changed the most rapidly. They could have asked any mother. All they'd had to do was ask her, because the places they came up with, and I've got the reports back on it, the places they came up with were just below the hairline on the forehead and on the back of the right hand.